Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be making this Christmas card using the sophisticated Sled stamp set and matching dies from Stampin' Up. This is an online exclusive right now. This is July 2024 that I'm filming this, so you can find this online, and there's a few different ways that you can use this stamp set. So it has each image, the sled as the main image, and then each of these other images that you can use to decorate up your sled and make some cute little scenes. There are several different sayings: let it snow, good tidings, yay all the way, I hope your days are filled with fun and laughter, let's decorate the season with happiness. So you can stamp any of those. There are matching dies to cut each piece out. And then the die set also has some additional pieces like the Stampin' Up sets often do, which is really fun. And I have some of them pulled to the side, so I'll pull them in here. But just to kind of show you, if you stamp, for instance, the skates, sorry about the glare, if you stamp the skates, you have this die that will cut them out. Or you also have, they've included the various pieces, 3 separate pieces, if you wanted to just die cut cardstock pieces for your skates rather than stamping. So you don't even have to stamp, you can just use the dies to cut them out and assemble them that way. So they turn out really cute that way too. There is this piece of greenery, kind of a little swag of leaves that you can die cut just out of cardstock to decorate your card. Then the other 2 pieces that I've pulled to the side, because we're going to use these today, is like the metal frame of the sled and the wood pieces. And this comes with the base, and then this is that extra little piece that goes across the top of the sled. And I think the kind of neat thing about this is they've given you 2 different sizes. So depending on kind of what scale you want, this die cut sled is smaller than the stamped sled. And I'll show you a couple different examples of cards that I've made with both, so you can kind of see what you like. But that gives you a little bit more variety, I think, if you can do a couple different sizes. So lots of opportunities and possibilities with this set, lots of cute things. I'll show you some examples that I've made, but we're not only going to be using this set. Let me pull in some of the other products. I'm combining several different things today to make our card. I'm also going to be pulling in this distressed 3D tile embossing folder. This has been around for a while, but I love the kind of that vintagey, kind of worn look. It just gives a really pretty background that we're using kind of on this vintage looking sled card. So we'll use that. And then I'm going to pull in this whole suite of products. Now this is called the Season of Green and Gold Sweet Collection, and it is right now, as of today, it's not available online. It is sold out right now, but they are going to be bringing it back. So watch for it if you want the whole entire set. If you want any of these pieces, I believe they're all available separately or as bundles. So you can get like your stamp set and your dies as a bundle. Those are available right now, but getting it all together right now as of today is unavailable. So watch the website if you're looking to get the whole thing together. But this is a really pretty sweet, coming up for our holiday card making. I will start out by saying the one thing I don't have that comes as the suite, and I don't have it with me right at this minute, is it's called Cherry Cobbler and Pearl Adhesive Back Berries. So they're kind of like little pearls with the adhesive already on the back that you can use to embellish your cards. There's both Cherry Cobbler and Pearl, like I said. You get 64 of them in the little pack, and they range, there are both 4mm and 8mm sizes that you get. So I don't have that right here with me to show you, but that comes with this as the suite. The other thing you get is this really pretty satin ribbon. This is 3/4 inch wide, and you get 10 yards of it on the spool. Really pretty, and it is in the Very Vanilla. Okay, and then you get 2 stamp sets and matching dies. So this is the Golden Greenery stamp set. There's a variety of different greenery pieces. There's little berries, and then there's 2 different sizes of bells. If you want to stamp your bells, here's the solid piece, and then here is some like the definition, kind of like you'd stamp that maybe in a darker color to kind of give some of that depth and dimension. Again, just like they do, they've included some additional dies that do coordinate with this. So let me pull open the dies. So you get 2 cards of dies in this set. I have them kind of upside down, but let me flip them around here. So if you want to just die cut some of these foliage pieces out of just cardstock, you can use these. If you want to stamp with your stamp set and cut them out, then you can use these that are more open. And I should include, there is one additional smaller little branch, little evergreen bough that we're going to be using today. So I had already pulled that out to the side. Oh, and I should also show, of course, there are the bells, the 2 different sizes of bells that match with the stamps, and we're using the small one today. So very, very cool, lots that you can do. The other thing that's nice about this, when you buy it as a suite collection, you have the paper, some of the 12 by 12 designer series paper, and some of these dies will coordinate with some of the paper that you get. So I'll show you that as we get to that. Before we do that though, let's look at the other stamp set and dies that you get in the suite. Again, you can order this separately just on its own if you like this, if you want some additional sentiments for your cards. But you can see this Greetings of the Season stamp set has all kinds of different sentiments that you can mix and match. Some just kind of plain font, and then some script that you can, again, kind of mix and match with each other. You can make tags with your to and from or your for you, and then some nice, they have a couple different bigger I guess longer sentiments that you can maybe use for the inside of a card. You know, sometimes we don't stamp the inside because we don't have a nice, you know, bigger saying to go on the inside. So that's kind of nice they've included those. And I've showed this in one other video that I did. I love the die set that comes with this. And that's because the entire thing is tags. So you can make all kinds of different tags, gift tags. You can use these for other things also, and not just tags. And I'm going to show you a little trick today using one of these. And again, I've pulled out this oval. We're going to be using that tag today for our card. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a trick with it because we're not going to use it as a tag. We're going to use it as the place to stamp our sentiment for our card. And there's no hole in it, so you can see we're going to do a little bit of fancy die cutting to get rid of that hole. So there is that. Move that to the side, and then I'll show you quickly the 2 different packs of paper. This is actually a vellum pack of paper that comes with the suite. Again, you can order it separately if you just want this, or if you want just a few pieces out of the set. It's 12 by 12. Again, it's vellum, so it kind of has that little bit of a see-through feel to it. Really, really pretty. You know, the evergreen branches. So there's 2 of that one. There's 2 of this one that has kind of like a snowy look to it. Kind of, I don't know what you'd call it even. A little bit grungy looking, but also just kind of gives that snowy feel. So 2 of that one. And this I just think is so pretty. 2 of this one with the Mossy Meadow and the Old Olive mixed together for those branches. So you get 2 of that one. So 2 each of 3 different pieces of vellum. Again, they're nice big 12 by 12 sheets. So if you're a scrapbooker and you want to use a whole sheet on a scrapbook page, you can do that. Otherwise, you know, you can cut smaller pieces of it. For cards, you can use smaller pieces on a scrapbook page. Lots of options. And then here is the designer series paper. And this, oh, I should tell you the name. The vellum one is actually called Graceful Greenery Vellum. So that's the technical name of it. And then this one is Season of Green and Gold, the specialty designer series paper. See if I can get it out of here. So really pretty right away. You can see it has all the old olive, the mossy meadow. It also has garden green, pecan pie, very vanilla, and gold in this set. Again, 12 by 12, and you get 12 pieces. So this one here, a lot of the pieces in here have that gold accent. Try to get it so that you can see nice and shiny gold, really pretty. So 2 of each. I should have flipped one of each over, but this one is, so one side has the gold, one side does not. So this one, really pretty greenery. This one is the very vanilla with the polka dots. Okay, more of that white background with the greenery on one side, and then some nice green stripes with that little bit of distress look. This side has really pretty gold, shiny diamonds. A nice kind of neutral that you can use for a lot of things. And the back is a couple tones of green with no shiny on it. Okay. Next one, a lot of gold with that very vanilla. Really shiny and pretty. And the back, again, kind of a distressed green, a couple different shades. This looks like a bunch of little gold stars, like little starburst. And the back, again, just really nice green leaves. Man, I can just imagine all the pretty Christmas cards we can make with these. And then this last one has some bells as well as some greenery on the one side, lots of shiny gold, and then a nice green kind of plaid on the back. I love this paper. The fun thing again is that a lot of these papers you can cut with the dies that are included in the stamp set and dies. So if you buy all of this together, you have a couple different options of ways you can use it. Again, the small and the large bells, and then some of these different greenery pieces have those matching dies. If you don't, of course, you can just fussy cut around each of these if you want to take them apart, take this apart and use them maybe as embellishment on your cards. But you know, lots of ways to get some really fun, quick Christmas cards made. Excuse me. Okay, so let's pull in the pieces that we're going to be using today. Actually, how about I do a little show and tell first. So like I said, we're going to be making this card today. And I'll show you a couple other things that I made. So this is, I used that plaid paper on the background. For my background, I cut a circle and used the Love and Joy out of the greetings set. And then I stamped the sled from the stamp set. I stamped it with pecan pie ink with my ink pad. Just pull it out here so you can see. And then because this is water-based, I could use my alcohol markers. So I used my light pecan pie alcohol marker and just colored it in the slats. So I used tone on tone. I decided to do that for this card just to kind of keep it kind of neutral so that nothing stuck out a whole lot. Of course, I stamped and colored in. I stamped in Mossy Meadow, the wreath that comes in the stamp set, and then colored in the leaves and the little berries with various colors, and then also stamped my little cardinal and colored him in. And I popped everything up on dimensionals. I did layer this. I matted the designer series paper on a piece of the Mossy Meadow cardstock. And this is just an A2 size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So there is that one. And then I decided to have just kind of a wintry card. This is done in some blues. I have the Night of Navy, Misty Moonlight. I used a little piece of vellum and stamped Let It Snow on there because I didn't want to cover up my sled. So you can see my sled, I cut the frame in the basic gray cardstock, and then I used white for my, my wood pieces. I also used that little greenery piece that's in the die set. I cut it out twice. Was it 2 or 3 times? And layered them together up there. I took a little bit of white twine to make my bow and then extended a couple pieces down to my skates to make them look like they're hanging there. And then used some little pearls just to kind of decorate that up. Now I will say and this is some of the designer series paper out of the catalog. So I have a mat of that, a mat of the Night of Navy, and you'll probably notice here this kind of scalloped and stitched piece that's around here. That was actually a die from a different company. So Stampin' Up doesn't make that particular die, but you could just, if you wanted, you could leave it plain. It could just go straight onto the card base. You could cut just a rectangle that's that shape. You don't need that extra little piece back there, but I had it, so I thought I would layer it together for that. So I did want to just kind of point out the size difference. If you can kind of tell, the stamped set is, or the stamped sled, excuse me, is a little bit bigger in dimension. Not huge, but it's a little bit bigger than just the die cut version. Okay. And last but not least, because I wanted to use all the pieces from the stamp set, I had this little swag piece stamped from the stamp set. I colored it in with alcohol markers, and I decided just to make a little gift tag. So I cut a little vellum tag. This is from our Greetings of the Season set. This tag is from Greetings of the Season. It's kind of you know, pointed on each end with the hole in the top. I used our very vanilla satin ribbon and then just a little piece of gold cord that I had and tied that. And I used Old Olive to stamp our For You. So cute little gift tag, came together really fast. Just shows you a couple different ways that you can use the pieces of these different sets. Move those to the side, and then we can get started on today's card. Okay, we'll leave that to the side there. So I have all my pieces cut out and ready to go just so that this can come together a little bit quicker. There are still a lot of steps to all of this. That's some tips and tricks I want to show you today. So just to make some of it a little quicker, I decided to pre-cut and get ready for our card. So our vanilla base is 5 1/2 by 6 1/2, scored at 3 1/4. So I'm making kind of a little mini slim card. It's not necessarily a traditional mini slim size, but I really wanted it to be no taller than 5 1/2 because I wanted to be able to use this in a regular envelope, my A2 envelope, so that I don't have to pay extra postage, because postage is getting more and more expensive all the time. So this will fit into an A2 size envelope. So again, 5 1/2, it ends up being 3 1/4 wide. And then we have a panel of Mossy Meadow that will adhere right on the front, and it's going to cover the whole front up. I didn't leave a border. So this is 5 1/2 by 3 1/4. And then our very vanilla panel that's going to go on top of that is 5 1/4 by 3. So just 1/4 of an inch smaller both ways. And I did run that through the embossing machine with my emboss tile 3D embossing folder. Okay, and then my dies, for my sled, I used cherry cobbler, and I cut out the main hardware, the main body of the sled, and then crumb cake to cut the wood pieces. So these will be layered together like this. And then to decorate up our sled, I wanted to have some bells hanging from it. So I used the small bell die that's in our green and gold set. Cut those out, 2 of those. And then also this evergreen piece from that same set. And I cut 4 of those. Okay, so those are the main pieces. And you might notice in my original card here, there are some, there's some inking. That's the piece we're gonna do together. I'm gonna be adding some inking just to give it a little bit more texture, a little more depth, and a little more character, to give you some ideas of ways that you can take your die cut pieces. You can certainly just glue these all on as is, and it's really cute, really pretty. But if you wanted to just do a little bit extra, you could add some ink to each of these. So that's what we're gonna do together. Okay, so we're gonna get started with a little bit of inking of our different die cut pieces. These 2 bells are cut out of basic beige cardstock, and I'm gonna be using the matching basic beige ink pad and a little sponge dauber. So I'm just gonna get that opened up. Have the sponge dauber on my finger. I'm gonna really just lightly tap because I don't want too much on there. And then I'm gonna just go around the very, very edges and just kind of start to see how that looks. So just to give this a little bit of depth, I like to, you can't take it back off, but you can always add more. So I try to be a little bit careful and not add too much to start out. Okay, and I'm liking how that's looking. It's probably really hard to see on the camera. I'm going to add a little bit more now and just go a little bit further in. So I'm kind of going up over the edge a little bit more, and you can start to see, it's probably a little hard to see, but there's a little bit of shadowing going over the edges just a little more. And you could probably go a lot more if you wanted. I try to be a little bit conservative about my inking, so I don't do too much. And I'm trying not to put my fingers over the top of that ink either, because I don't want to get finger smudges. So I'm going to try to kind of hold it in the middle. So I've gone all the way around the outside, but what I want to do where this bell, where it would kind of go in as its natural shape, I want to add a little bit more shading right through that part just to accentuate the shape of the bell. So I'm going to really lightly kind of go over it, kind of from the middle in, or from the middle out, I should say. I'm going to flip this around and do that again on this side. Just really light. I'm hardly touching it and just brushing it across. So you can kind of see a little bit more shadowing right through that center where the bell would naturally kind of curve in. I'm going to stop there, grab the other one, and kind of do that same thing, just lightly around the outside. I'm going to go a little faster this time. Just doing the very edges, and then I'll go up around. Okay. Just real lightly through that section of the bell that's a little more indented before it kind of flutes out. And I think I will leave it like that. Okay, so our bells are ready. I'm going to get this set off to the side, and I'm going to take our wood pieces of the sled, so the main portion and then that extra little top piece. And for this one, I'm going to use crumb cake. Again, the matching ink. This is crumb cake cardstock, crumb cake ink, and a different sponge dauber that's that I have just kind of specifically for a little bit darker of a brown. And I'm going to go around the edge. I want my, you know, besides giving this kind of some depth and dimension, I want it to also look a little bit weathered. You know, maybe it's been used for a lot of years and the wood's looking a little old. I'm going to just really lightly brush in a few places over the top also. It's hard to get on the edges of each of those slats because they are connected with little pieces, so I'm kind of just randomly picking a few spots here and there. And some of this up top will be covered with our decoration with the bell, or bells and the greenery, but okay, I'm just going to leave it like that, and you can see the difference between the inked and the uninked. Get this one inked up as well the same way. I'm just going to use the ink that's already on my dauber. Go around the edges. It's a small piece, so it's kind of hard to hold. All right. So those pieces are ready now. And lastly, I am going to also take this red piece. You're hardly going to see this, so you probably don't even really need to do this. I think in my sample I used early espresso, so a little bit darker. I'm going to just try it with this crumb cake and see what happens. Yeah, that'll work. So as I started to add that, you can kind of see it just adds a little bit of dark. I mean, to me, it makes it feel like it's not shiny new out of the store anymore. It's maybe had years of wear and use. Lots of sledding fun has happened with this sled. Maybe a little bit of rust even starting on some of the little areas. So just kind of dabbed a little bit of that ink to make some darker spots. So that is the, oh, one more thing before I get carried away here. I am going to do some inking on our vanilla piece, and I'm actually going to go back to the basic beige. I should have done that before I put that one away. So this is that piece of vanilla cardstock that's been run through with the 3D tile embossing folder, and as you can see, it's really kind of already distressed. It's called distressed tile, so you can see there's some flatter spots already on here. It has a lot of character just as it is. I just love this embossing folder, but I'm just going to add a little bit of more accents. Again, I like to just go around the outside first lightly and see how I like the look of it before I get too carried away. And eventually I'm going to be coming out a little bit more onto the top. So, you know, if my finger comes over as I'm going a little bit more, that's okay. I'm gonna really lightly just kind of go over the top of just a few areas, and you can see it starts to kind of bring out some of that pattern. Just picking some random spots. I don't want to do too much, you know, then it, I don't know, then it doesn't look as natural if there's too much, I don't think, but I think that's enough. Just a few little places where we've added some ink to bring out some of that texture a little bit more. Okay, so that's our ink blending. Now we're going to move on to a couple other things just to kind of keep adding some detail to our different die cut pieces. So this next thing we're going to do, I've done this in another video, but in case you didn't see it, I'm going to be adding some paint splatters to make it look like snow onto our little evergreen pieces. So let me grab my supplies for that, a little paper to protect my surface, and I'll be right back. Okay, so my preferred method of making snow on my pieces, I love to do little splatters, you know, in both white or black, depending on what project I'm working on. But for this one, of course, I want it to look like snow. I like to use this Winsor & Newton gouache. It's a tiny little tube, but I got it off of Amazon several years ago. It's lasted me forever. I have this little tiny dish that I use just for this, and a lot of times I'll just let it dry. When I'm done with my project, I let it dry in here. I can re-wet it and just reuse what's in there. Today I did put just a tiny little bit more in there, and then I add some water. You can either dip your paintbrush in water and mix it, or you can spray, you know, from some kind of a spray bottle, spray a little water in there, mix it up. You can use any kind of paintbrush, any shape, size. This is the one I use. It's a flat little paintbrush. It's the one I just used for splattering. I guess it works okay for me. So I didn't want to make this too wet, because for me, if it's too wet, you might get really big splots. So I try to keep it just a little bit drier. If it's too dry, it won't splatter at all. So you have to kind of find that happy medium. But once there's some of that wetted paint or gouache on your paintbrush, then you just start tapping it. So just tap it over my pieces. You can stay up, you know, up away or as close as you want. You can kind of experiment. You can tap the brush on your other finger, you know, the finger of your other hand, excuse me, to get a few more of those little paint spots to start coming off there. And I don't want to go overboard, so I'm not going to do too many, but all right. I'm going to just stop right there. That's enough for me. It's just a little bit of a hint of snow on those different pieces, and we're going to let those dry. It doesn't take long at all. This actually dries really fast, especially since they're such small little spots. So we'll just move that to the side and let it dry. All right, and I have one last little thing I'm going to show you to kind of customize this card before we start assembling it. I didn't have a nice red ribbon to match, and I wanted to put a red ribbon at the top here with the bells and the greenery. So I decided to customize and make my own. Now, if you have like white ribbon or a light colored ribbon, you can use anything like that. I happen to have this spool of 1/4 inch rayon seam binding. There's 100 yards in this, so I have a ton of it. I ordered this from Amazon. I also have a 1/2 inch size, or one that's closer to 1/2 inch. But you can use this to kind of make your own custom ribbon. So what you can do is I just grabbed one of my Stampin' Blends is an alcohol marker in dark cherry cobbler, because I used the cherry cobbler cardstock and I wanted it to match that. And you can use this to color your ribbon or seam binding. So protect your work surface, lay it down, and you want to be really careful not to wreck the nib. I'm using the brush end, and you're going to lay it down on its side. Let me actually zoom in a little bit more. Lay it down on its side, not down like this, because you don't want to wreck that nib, and just really gently start to kind of rub it across there. Now you can also color your ribbon or seam binding with an ink pad by running it across the ink pad. You know, maybe put a sponge dauber on one finger and hold it and run it across, you know, pull your ribbon across the top of your ink pad. So that's another way to do that if you don't have the alcohol markers, but just real gently run it through. It colors it very fast. I mean, you don't even have to press. Please don't wreck your marker. So don't press too hard. Just, you know, very gently run it along there on the side, and it just really quickly colors the whole thing. So now I have a customized piece of cherry cobbler ribbon to use for my project. I almost forgot about our sentiment, and I said I was going to show you something that you can do with the tag dies. So I'm going to use this oval tag die, and this is basic beige cardstock. Lay your tag die down on the cardstock, and we don't want to cut through this end where the hole is, because I don't want a hole in the oval. We're not using it like a tag. To hold this in place, because I don't want anything to move, I'm going to use some low-tack tape. You can use painter's tape, you know, like a low-tack Scotch tape. This is mint tape. that I've bought from scrapbook.com. I like to put my tape right over the end where that hole is, just to kind of give myself that visual that when I'm running it through my die cut machine, I'm going to stop before I get to this point. So this you can do with a shape that is symmetrical all the way around. So it's, you know, if you were to cut it in half, it's the same size and shape on both halves. Okay, so I have my little mini die cut and emboss machine here, and I'm going to put this right down. I have platform 1 and 2. Put this right down in the middle and then add another 2 over the top. And I'm just going to be watching as this enters where that roller is, that I stop before it goes too far. So let me get it started here. Okay, it's starting to enter where it's cutting it. Try to keep my hand and arm out of the way. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I can kind of see that tape still sticking out. I'm going to back it up, back out, so I didn't go all the way across. So that's really partial die cutting. You can do that with a lot of different dies, but I'm doing it this time so that we can take this shape now that's partially die cut, flip our die around, and cut the rest of it with the first half that we used to cut this side. So again, we're not going to be cutting through the side with the hole. So you can kind of lay that on there, wiggle it around, and you'll feel when it kind of goes down into the groove, it's almost like a puzzle piece. Okay, again, I'm going to add my tape on this end as a visual so that I know to stop and not cut any further. Flip it around so your uncut side is going through the machine. Add that plate back on top. Again, just give it a few spins. It doesn't have to go very far because we've already cut it at least halfway, and then back it out. And now when we take it off, we have a really pretty oval with that little dot detail all the way around, and we can use that for our sentiment. Okay, let's just set this off to the side. Okay, and I am using the word Season's Greetings out of the Greetings of the Season stamp set. Zoom back in. I had zoomed out for the die cutting machine. I'm using Season's Greetings. I have it on my block, and I'm going to use early espresso, that nice brown. You can use any color. I thought about using cherry cobbler, mossy meadow. You could just use black. I thought it might be nice to use this early espresso, get that nice brown tone in there with all the other kind of distressing and inking shadowing that we did. I thought a brown would be kind of nice, so we'll just get that right over the oval, press down gently, and back up. It didn't stamp perfectly. I probably didn't ink quite enough, but I'm going to leave it like that. I'm not going to try to redo this. I think it looks okay. So now let's assemble our card. I already layered together our card base, our Mossy Meadow, and that embossed and inked panel. I already glued them together, just flat with no dimension. I am going to add our sentiment with some dimensionals. So I have our Stampin' dimensionals. This is a partial sheet, so it looks a little funny probably from what you would normally see, but I'm going to use 2 on the back of that. If I can get the backing off. There we go. And I want that fairly close to the bottom because I want to leave room for our sled right up above it. Okay, so that part's ready to go. The next piece, actually, let's assemble our sled. So that's ready. If I can get this other piece over here, there we go. Okay, and this is where I like to use my precision glue press. I don't I'm not sponsored by these people. I don't get any money or anything like that. I just really like this product. I love doing die cutting and, you know, shapes, putting the things together like this. But sometimes it's really hard, obviously, if you try to use a tape runner. And sometimes glue comes out too fast in a normal, like glue bottle kind of a thing. So I have the small tip on this, and what I can do with this is get just little teeny tiny dots of glue, and I've really started using this all the time for everything because I just like how easy it is to just get either tiny dots or tiny little lines of glue like this. So I went all the way across all three of those, which means there is probably going to be a little bit of glue showing between each of these slats. Could be. It's not a big deal though, because it is going to dry clear. So just lay that top piece on. I'm kind of just wiping a little of that glue that's popping out with my finger. There's that piece. And then this piece goes right across right there. So again, I'm going to add a little bit of glue. And our little die cut piece. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is attach our bells right to the sled. And I like for them to be one hanging down just a little bit lower. Let's see, is there a certain one I want in front? I'm okay with either of them. So I think, actually, let's glue these together first. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back of this one, just a little. Kind of layer them together, and then I'm going to grab another glue dot, or dimensional I should say, not a glue dot, a dimensional, and stick kind of across both of them. And let's see, I'm going to bring it up probably right about there. Okay, and then we'll get our greenery together. I already tied my little bow. You can tie your bow however you want. I looped mine around my fingers a few times just to get, you know, a few loops on each side so it was a little more full. I'm going to glue dot that to my greenery. The next thing I'm going to do is actually trim this greenery down, because if you see in my sample here, these pieces are shorter than a full piece of the branch. So we want to make our branches just a little shorter. So what I'm going to do is take my little scissors, and I want a couple different sizes. So for this first one, I'm going to just kind of trim right there, and probably here on this side. So that gives me one like that. I'm actually going to do two that size. So you can just kind of pick wherever you think on the branch. And if you leave it a little longer to start out, you can always trim more. I think I like those for the longer sizes, and then I'm going to make a couple that are shorter. So let's actually go right about there. And oh, I didn't get all the way through. Let's try that. Okay, and we will stick these together. I'm going to grab my glue dots. All right, so I just grabbed my box of mini glue dots, and I cut just a little strip off so it's easier to work with. And I am going to grab a glue dot with the back of one of these branches, the longer one, and kind of just not do a complete X, but, you know, put them at a little bit of a V shape to each other. Put the, you know, one over the top of the other with the glue dot, and grab a small one and kind of go opposite of that. Not completely up in the air. I kind of want it going more out to the side. And one more. Okay, so there's kind of my little bundle of foliage, and you with it being the glue dots, you can manipulate them a little bit, move them around. And then I'm going to grab one more on the back of all of this and stick that right to the top of the bells. Okay, I like that. Again, you can kind of move them around a little bit at first here. And then last but not least, I'm going to grab a glue dot on the back of my bow. Grab my last one there and stick it right to the middle of my foliage. I think that looks cute. All right. So last but not least, I'm going to attach the sled to the front of the card, and I decided to go ahead and just glue this down flat. I think there's enough dimension with, you know, our dimensional behind the bells, and then the branches and the bow all kind of stick up. So I decided to not pop it up anymore, to just add that little bit of glue on the back and put it flat down to the card. So okay, get that centered, make sure I'm not coming off the top up there. All right, and that is our card. I'll bring my sample back in here. So there we go. You can see I have the foliage in just a little bit different shape on the two, so you can kind of play with that and decide how you want it, but otherwise they're pretty similar. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you're inspired to try some of these different tips and tricks with the inking and the splattering, maybe customizing your own ribbon, and check out those online exclusives that are on the Stampin' Up website. Lots of really neat Christmas things coming out. The new mini catalog for September through December is coming up. That will go live very shortly, and there's a lot of new things coming up there too, so stay tuned for some more. And thanks again for joining me, and have a great rest of your day.